There's been a lot of discussion about false flag operations over the last couple of days, and it's an important topic, but I think there's also been a lot of confusion about it. So I just want to make a quick video where I look at a few things that I think we can look for when trying to find out if something is a Russian false flag operation, because there have actually been quite a few false flag operations from Russia, so we do have an idea about what they look like. I want to suggest three things to look for. The first one is the production quality of the video evidence. And ironically, the thing to look for is bad production quality. Russia's false flag operations usually look ridiculous, like they don't care about trying to appear convincing. What they want is something that is easy to understand. So they just sort of slap something together with a very clear message. So you get these things that look absolutely fake, and on social media, the OSINT community will just rip it apart. Or you have some ridiculous staged arrests of Ukrainian terrorists where it's pretty obvious that it's actually an FSB agent that they're sort of pretending to arrest. So bad production quality is typical for Russian false flag operations. If it looks real and if you're wondering what it means, then chances are that it's not a false flag operation. And the second thing to look for is the reaction in the Russian media. A false flag operation is an information operation, so they will make a big deal out of false flag operations. It's not the attack in itself that's the purpose, but it's the media coverage. And you shouldn't watch those angry talk show figures like Solovyov or Skapeva or Simonyan, like those people, because for them, everything is a big deal. Like, you should go to the more mainstream Russian media, like TASS or RIA Novosti or Rossiyskaya Gazeta or Первый канал. And here's the thing. The way the mainstream Russian media deal with bad news is that they bury it in other stories. So if something happens that the Kremlin doesn't like, then it will probably be mentioned in the big Russian media, but it will be downplayed and it will not get a lot of attention. Like, the tone will be kind of boring, and pretty soon other stories will start popping up on the website so that the bad news gets pushed to the bottom. Okay, so you have to look for how much attention is this story getting. If it gets a lot of coverage with many different angles and hot takes, then it might be a false flag operation. But if it gets downplayed, then it's a story that the Kremlin doesn't like. And the last thing to look for is how the story makes the Kremlin look. A false flag operation is in its nature supposed to be an attack on oneself, at least usually. But it will always be done in a way where you look good and the enemy looks bad. Like, you don't want to make yourself look bad. So if a story is embarrassing for the Russian government, then it's probably not a false flag operation. And if the story makes Ukraine look strong and competent and like they're winning, then it's probably also not a false flag operation. But if the story makes the enemy look like evil cowards and you look like the good guys, then it might be a false flag thing. So those are the three things I will say we should look for. Does it have bad production quality and an obvious message? Does it get a lot of attention in the mainstream Russian media? And does it make the Russian state look good? Like, if the answers are yes, then it's probably a false flag operation. And then the obvious question is, of course, what do I think about this drone that hit the Kremlin? I don't think any of these classical signs of a Russian false flag operation is present. Like, the production quality of the video was too convincing. A drone actually did hit the Kremlin. Like, the Russian media downplayed the story. It was quickly buried in other stories and sort of demoted to page 4 in the newspaper. And it was embarrassing for the Russian government that someone could break the air defenses of Moscow and attack the Kremlin. Like, we have to think about what kind of message this sends to the Russian soldiers that sit in the trenches and are afraid of Ukrainian drones. And now they can see that not even Putin is safe. Like, it makes Russia look weak and the Ukrainians look strong and competent. So my reading would be that most likely this was not a false flag operation. At least not in the sense that Putin was behind it. Of course, it could be some other group of Russians, like some pro-war Russian nationalists, but I don't think this was a false flag operation where the Kremlin sort of staged an attack on itself, because the characteristics are just not there. Okay, that was just a quick video. I didn't have a lot of time to sort of care for the details, but I hope you found it useful anyways. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again next time.